Welcome to the Claus YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Claus YouTube channel, The Strategic Frontlines. Today we have with us Brigadier Anshuman Narang, retired. He's the founder of the think tank Atmanirbhar Soch, which conducts courses on key military issues. We have with us Dr. Mudassar Kumar, Associate Professor at Center for West Asian Studies, JNU. He's an expert in West Asia. We also have with us Ms. Rupali Busari. She is the editor-in-chief of Ekta magazine, a counterterrorism expert, and she has authored several books. I welcome all of you to today's discussion on role of Russia, China, and other regional countries in the Iran-Israel war. We know that it will be the sixth day of the Iran-Israel conflict today, and both countries are targeting civilian infrastructures. Israelis has so far targeted Iran's key weapons manufacturing facilities, nuclear facilities, and high-ranking military and security officials, as shown in the slide. You can have a look in the slide. These are the target areas, and they have used their 50 fighter jets. Iran, on the other side, has targeted urban cities in Tel Aviv, Batyan, Haifa port, air bases, and military intelligence centers, and has used ballistic missile. That is also visible in the screen. Now, we know that recently President Trump has cut short his visit to Canada, where the G7 summit was going on, and his rhetorics have been that Iran should unconditionally surrender itself. The various option which has been started discussing is right from intelligence support to Israel to the direct strike which can be done on Fordo by US bombers because they have the bunker buster bombs. And all these things are not helping. In fact, it is escalating tension. So I have two questions for Brigadier Narang. First is, what is China's role going to be? We know, considering China-Iran has a strategic partnership agreement signed in 2021, as also China is its largest trading partner, as also it has its BRI, and Iran connects the Asia, Middle East, and Europe. So will it just remain limited to criticizing the Israelis and offering to just mediate, or will there be something more it will try to offer? Secondly, if US directly participates, then also will the posture remain the same, or it will change because Iran might attack the Strait of Hormuz and it will impact everyone as it's a conduit for energy? So what are your views, Brigadier Narang? So we can remove the slide now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Roshan, for inviting me, and thanks to Claus. Excellent question to start with. Firstly, let's see what has Iran asked China. The Iranians have asked China, and they have come and declared China as a friendly country and repeatedly highlighted three places. That is China's voice at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, at BRICS, and at UN Security Council. So first is the diplomatic part, which Iran has declared and honored that agreement of 25 years of strategic partnership since 2021. So what has China done? Immediately on the first day, it went on and condemned Israel for the launch and disrupting the sovereignty of Iran. So that strong statement came out. It went and spoke. Wang Yi, the foreign minister, spoke to both the foreign ministers of Israel and Iran to try and become a peace broker, a peace negotiator. We must remember China has the one which got a kind of a truce done between Saudi Arabia and Iran and was a little bit shocker to many people. Similarly, uh, while Iran is the largest trading partner, I mean, Iran's largest trading partner is China, but similarly is the status with Israel, where China in some places call it the second and some places call it the third. So somewhere among the top three, China is Israel's trading partner too. So China has a kind of a leverage with both. Now the point which you highlighted is Strait of Hormuz being targeting. The moment that gets targeted, the worst affected country is China. Not only because of energy, it has to then go on and agree to the Russian deal for the Siberia Part 2 for the to get the oil supply under control. Then the next important thing is China has already evacuated its own citizens. So China is prepared that this, like it has happened, 4 rounds of negotiation between US and Iran have failed, and Israel continues its bombing and the escalation is on. So what's the next step China has done? Uh, Presumably, I mean, those are the OSINT open source intelligence reports. Somewhere around 3 to 4 aircrafts have taken off from Shanghai, which were supposed to land at Luxembourg, didn't land at Luxembourg via Turkmenistan, and they've gone over Iran, and thereafter there's nothing known of them. So some kind of a support has gone in there. What does it provide China? It provides it, like it did in case of India, Pakistan, providing the PL-15 air-to-air missiles, the emergency procurement at the last moment, and plus so many other aids. This battle test, combat test Chinese equipment against the best of the adversaries world can see. If their missiles can penetrate Israeli system, which Iran has already proven, it gives them a significant amount of battle testing, combat testing of their own equipment, which, I mean, half the world says the HQ-9s failed. So you have to understand that Chinese mindset also to be able to prove a lot of things there. Yes, it is very critical because Chinese also cannot upset Israelis. While this kind of a support, when it comes known, because whatever support happened to China, to Russia during Ukraine war could still be hidden. But this kind of an aircraft movement, which the whole world is watching, whatever takes off from China towards Iran, it creates a certain bit of concerns. And even Israel would look to what kind of a support which China provides to Iran.
Very rightly pointed out, China would love to work through its proxies, whether it is Pakistan or Iran. This brings me to Dr. Mudassar. I also have two questions for you. Firstly, there were news that US has called General Munir for lunch. So what is cooking up there? Are they going to use Pakistani bases to finally directly get involved and attack Iran from Pakistani bases? Or is it just breaking the alliance of Iran and Pakistan? Or it's a kind of a signaling to create panic amongst the Iranians? And secondly, I want to ask you is, how are the other major countries' reaction to this? Mainly Saudi Arabia and UAE and other countries in the Middle East. Is there any unity among the Muslim nations, or they too want to weaken Iran and defang Iran as far as the nuclear issues are concerned? What are your views on that?
First of all, thank you very much for having me, Dr. Roshan Kanijo, and for Claus as well. I'm happy to be here. Uh, on the lunch meeting between President Trump and General Munir, I think it's more a signaling. It signals that we are approaching a situation where American involvement in the Israel-Iran confrontation, which is going on for the last 5-6 days, is almost imminent, and it is also a signaling that Pakistan should not uh, be involved in any way. I wouldn't consider Iran and Pakistan as allies, but certainly there were some statements that had come from Pakistan condemning Israeli, attack on Iran. So I think this should be seen more as a signaling to Pakistan than to any other country. As far as the regional reaction to the ongoing conflict is concerned, I think all the regional countries are in a very peculiar situation. They are in a very complex situation. For example, if you look at Saudi Arabia, it considers Iran as a rival, as a competitor. A nuclear Iran is a threat to all the regional countries, including Saudi Arabia. So they do not want a nuclear Iran, that is for sure. But when it comes to the current conflict, the fear of escalation is very apparent. They do not want the Middle East to go up in flames, because that is not something that would be advantageous or be very helpful for countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, or even for that matter, Qatar and other smaller countries, which are currently, working to try and, focus on developmental issues, focus on economic transformation, focus on social transformation. We have seen that in the last 2-3 years, Saudi Arabia and even UAE, even Turkey for that matter, they have worked on trying to resolve their problems, their issues, differences through diplomacy, and they were hoping that the US Iran negotiations on the nuclear program will lead to some results which will avoid confrontation. That has not happened. So any kind of, for example, as you had also mentioned, that Iran might, has actually, there has been some speculation, there has been some statements from Iranian side as well, to, if not completely close the Strait of Hormuz, then at least restrict the movement. That would be something very problematic for all the GCC countries. Also, if there is a serious escalation, it will affect their, energy sector very seriously. So, in all, I would say that the situation for the regional countries is very complex. They are not in a position to take sides, and they are not in a position to get themselves involved. There has been some indication that perhaps they were playing facilitator in terms of communication on all, but I think so far it has not really materialized.
I think you rightly pointed out, but I also feel that Pakistan cannot be trusted because they were too much in one army with Iran and all. But recently, if you see, they have closed their border with Iran. So we do not know which side they are going to go. This brings me to Rupali. रूपाली, हमें पता है कि आप काउंटर टेररिज्म एक्सपर्ट हैं, आपने किताब भी लिखी हुई है इजराइल के ऊपर। तो मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ कि उनकी जो मोसाद इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसी, खुफिया एजेंसी है, वो कैसे वर्क कर रही है? उन्होंने कितने लोगों को ईरानियन जो न्यूक्लियर साइंटिस्ट हैं और उनके जो आर्मी के चीफ थे उनको भी मारा है, तो वो किस तरह से वर्क करती है? अगर इस पे अगर आप कुछ बता सकते हैं तो प्लीज बताइए। आप अपना माइक अनम्यूट कर लीजिए प्लीज। रूपाली, माइक अनम्यूट करिए, आवाज नहीं आ रही है आपकी। रूपाली, आवाज नहीं आ रही है आपकी। आपकी आवाज नहीं सुनाई दे रही है। या हाँ, आप सुन सकते हैं, आप बताइए। आप
अभी आ रहा है आवाज? हाँ हाँ, regarding any agency like Mossad making any kind of direct statement is actually adventurous, क्योंकि कैसे कि इजराइल इसके बारे में कोई भी ऑफिशियल स्टेटमेंट कभी भी नहीं करता है। जो कुछ हम लोग स्टडी कर रहे हैं या फिर जो कुछ भी डेटा अवेलेबल उसके हिसाब से हम लोग जो कुछ भी डिस्कस कर रहे हैं या फिर लिख रहे हैं या फिर रिसर्च कर रहे हैं। तो अकॉर्डिंग टू, अगर उनका हिस्ट्री हम लोग देखते हैं, अगर उनके मोसाद के ऑपरेशन देखते हैं, तो अभी परसों जिन शहरों पर अटैक किया गया है जैसे कि बुशहर है, नतांज है, इनके ऊपर इससे पहले भी कई साल पहले भी इजराइल ने अटैक किया हुआ है, क्योंकि ये ईरान का जो न्यूक्लियर वेपन, न्यूक्लियर प्रोजेक्ट जो है ना, ये अलग अलग शहरों में उन्होंने बिखेर के रखा है। इससे पहले 2005 में भी बुशहर पर अटैक हुआ था। 2006 में भी वहाँ के नतांज जो शहर है, वहाँ के उनके जो सेंट्रीफ्यूज है उसको भी डिफ्यूज किया था, और इनके पीछे मोसाद के ऑपरेशन थे। अभी ये फ्राइडे का जो अटैक हुआ है, अगर हम लोग देखते हैं कि उन्होंने जिस तरीके से इतने बड़े टारगेट इतने एक्यूरेटली अचीव किए हैं, इसका मतलब उनके लिए काफी पहले से उनका प्रिपरेशन चल रहा था, नो डाउट। इसमें एआई का भी यूज है, टेक्नोलॉजी है, और इसके साथ इंटेलिजेंस एक्यूरेसी जो है वो देखी जाए तो वो काफी मतलब ये जो है ना, ये इसके लिए ह्यूमन भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। और मोसाद जैसे जो मतलब उनकी जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है वो इट इज वेरी कैपेबल। इतना ही नहीं कि अगर हम लोग अभी देखते हैं तो अभी जो न्यूज था उसमें बताया गया था कि ईरान ने अभी अभी अपने सिटीजन्स के लिए भी एक मतलब उन्होंने एक पत्रक जारी किया है। उसमें बताया गया है कि अगर आपको कुछ ऐसे कुछ मीन्स दे आर एक्चुअली हंटिंग फॉर मोसाद एजेंट। उन्होंने उसमें बताया कि अगर किसी ने मास्क पहना है, कोई आदमी रात को भी अगर सन ग्लासेस लगा के घूम रहा है, तो यू शुड इन्फॉर्म अस। या फिर कोई ऐसा घर आपको दिखाई दे रहा है जहाँ पे दिन रात कर्टन लगे हुए हैं, या फिर कोई ऐसा घर है जहाँ पे बहुत ज्यादा पार्सल्स आ रहे हैं, कुरियर्स आ रहे हैं, तो लेटेस्ट इन्फॉर्म। ऐसे ईरान गवर्नमेंट ने वो जारी किया है। इसका मतलब दे आर ऑल्सो पॉइंटिंग ओवर दैट मोसाद। एंड अभी अभी उन्होंने वहाँ जो एक स्पाई है इस्माइल फाकिल करके, उसको भी उन्होंने फांसी मतलब अभी उसको दिया है। इसका मतलब यह है कि इसके पीछे मोसाद ऑपरेशन है, नो डाउट, लेकिन ओपनली मतलब इट इज लाइक अ ओपन सीक्रेट। और जिस तरीके से ये ऑपरेशन किया गया है, इसके ये भी एक न्यूज थी कि इस हमले से पहले मोसाद ने वहाँ के कुछ मिलिट्री या फिर एविएशन जो कुछ भी डिफेंस सिस्टम थे उनको पहले डिफ्यूज किया, उसके बाद इसराइल ने ये सब अटैक किया है। इस तरीके से जो न्यूज आ रहे हैं और उनकी अगर हिस्ट्री हम लोग देखते हैं तो इसके पीछे मोसाद का काफी बड़ा रोल रहा होगा, क्योंकि उनका जो पहले से ही उनके जो न्यूक्लियर मतलब जो प्रिपरेशन चल रहा था ईरान का, जैसे हम लोगों को पता है कि एक्यू खान जो थे पाकिस्तान के, उन्होंने जो कुछ न्यूक्लियर सीक्रेट चुराए थे और उन्होंने जो बेचे थे उसमें ईरान भी एक था। तब से जाकर ईरान का ये प्रोग्राम बनाने की कोशिश चल रही है, और तब से जाके इसराइल ने इसको कभी भी सक्सेसफुल नहीं होने दिया है। और फ्राइडे के अटैक भी दैट इज ऑल्सो वन ऑफ द पार्ट ऑफ दैट ऑपरेशन।
नो, यू वेरी राइटली पॉइंटेड, और आपने बिल्कुल अच्छा बोला है। एंड हम क्या करते हैं आजकल, सोचते हैं कि सारा कुछ एआई के द्वारा, बट एआई के साथ साथ ह्यूमन इंटेलिजेंस आल्सो प्लेज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल. सो देयर हैज टू बी a mix of AI intelligence as well as human intelligence. Both have to be taken together in order to achieve the role, and which Israel has shown recently. Now, coming back to Brigadier Narang, I want to ask you, what has been the Russian reaction to the conflict? Especially, there were talks between President Trump and President Putin, and he has suggested that President Putin can mediate in ending the conflict. Now, it's a known fact that Iran has helped Russia in their conflict with Ukraine by sending Shahid drones and SRBMs, that is Fatah, and they have also defense and nuclear cooperation. So I want to know from you, will the Russians only restrict their cooperation to only political and diplomatic support and may not help them militarily? Or will the posture change if the US directly attacks Iran? So what are your views on that, please?
See, firstly, the Putin-Trump call for 50 minutes, literally, uh, Putin offered to negotiate, and Putin has himself spoken to both Netanyahu and the Iranian president. So he's spoken to leaders of both the countries. Despite that, he's not been able to calm both the sides down, although Iran is ready for negotiations in a great detail. But the conditions set by America are not acceptable to Iran. So that's the first concern, where Putin is not able to play further role, because he's one of those few leaders who has spoken to both the sides and has access to both the sides. However, the negotiation offer by Trump to Putin was rejected by Macron and other European leaders. That was much expected. What is Russia to gain or lose from such a conflict? Iran-Israel conflict going, Americans getting more and more interested in this is a good thing for America in a manner that a lot of those things, a lot of those defense items and platforms which were to move to Ukraine have already been diverted to West Asia. So that diversion facilitates Russia to take care of Ukraine independently and helps it a lot. Second important thing is, while Israel help was required till the time Assad was in power, but with Assad moving out of power in Syria, Russia relies more on Iran and they need to support each other more to resolve the Syrian problem. Yes, Iran has helped Russia with ballistic missiles, with drones, but as far as drones are concerned, Russia is already producing its own. About 1.5 years back, President Putin decided that Russia should be the world leader in drone production. So the Iranian Shahid drones are being reproduced as the Russian Geran drones. So that reliance on Iran for the drones in a manner is over, because it's the Chinese components which have to go there. And there are a lot of technology transfers from China to Russia, like the OFC part and all, which is making Russia more independent on drones and away from Iran. Second, the North Korean ballistic missiles also being used now. So it is more Iran which requires Russia support as of today, rather than Russia requiring Iran support. Now, with Russia trying to complete the capture of Ukraine, and particularly those parts which are important now, and with US help being as minimal as possible for Ukraine, Russia would like to take that opportunity to close the Ukraine aspect. But just 6 months back, Russia signed a strategic partnership with Iran. Can it afford to forget such a partner? That's one thing. Now, if you remember, moment USA, America under Trump offered to negotiate between Ukraine and Russia, the first statement which came out of Iran was that Russia will forget Iran now and will side with America. So Iranians already expected that kind of a concern, and that comes out clearly that they declared China as a dear friend and wanted, because between China and Russia, all three locations, that's the position at SCO, the position at BRICS and UN Security Council, is common to both. But Iran went on, requested China, because it understands right now Russia is in negotiation with America over the Ukraine deal aspect. So Russians in a manner are a bit tight. They would surely, and imagine the energy prices rise only facilitates Russia. Like, in fact, even China would have to go down and have a second deal with Russia if the oil prices continue to rise, and Iranian Strait of Hormuz or some other parts being blocked there, Russia would gain from those energy prices. But in that axis of resistance, Iran is a very important partner. So it's very difficult beyond the diplomatic support what Russia will be able to do. But sure enough, satellite images support, because the satellites are orbiting. Like the Chinese would surely be providing satellite support to Iran. Russians can provide whatever satellite support exists. So there are a lot of intelligence means which are Russia already has enough agents present there through the secret agency. So a lot of support which Russian KGB and FSB and others which can provide, that will surely continue. But coming out in a stronger defense support may be slightly difficult at this time, since Russia is involved in Ukraine.
Very rightly put, Brigadier Narang, because Russia is in a very peculiar situation. But I'm sure the real-time data, which is a very crucial thing in any conflict, can be provided to Iran, both by the Russians and the Chinese. And this brings me to Dr. Muzassar. No country in the region has offered any humanitarian aid to Iran. Do you find it a little bit this thing, kind of a very different thing. And also, I also want to ask you, do you feel that if US gets involved directly, then Iran, will it target American bases? There are more or less 19 bases and some 40,000, I think, Americans and other regional players are involved in that. And US assets are also there in Persian Gulf and Red Seas. And also, does it have the capability to go in for a two-front war? And I would also like Brigadier Narang and others to answer these two questions if they can. We start with Mudassar first.
I think that's a very important point. Let me put it this way: uh, despite of the fact that rhetorically or through statements, the regional countries, the Middle Eastern countries, the Gulf countries have condemned Israeli attack on Iran. Iran has been isolated in the region for a very long time. Uh, Only in the last, let's say, 3-4 years, since you know uh, 2023 actually, that Iran and Saudi Arabia have started some resumed actually in the diplomatic ties. The other countries also have not really been very friendly towards Iran, or the other way around. I mean, Iran also has not been very friendly towards these countries. I mean, if we recall, in 2019, when Saudi Arabia's oil installations in Khurais and Unpack were attacked by the Yemeni Houthi rebels, Iranian hand was suspected. It was almost clear that Iran had provided the Houthis that kind of rocket and missile capability. Similarly, if you look at the Saudi involvement in Yemeni conflict, the civil war in Yemen, it was the Iranian involvement and Iranian support to the Houthis that created a kind of a conundrum for Saudi Arabia, and it found itself in a very very peculiar situation. So, as far as the regional countries are concerned, even if we talk about, for example, Egypt or Turkey, none of these countries are very good friends with Iran. They have some relations, they have some ties. In fact, Egypt doesn't even has a formal diplomatic relations with Iran. So, I mean, Iran has been isolated in the region. They were The regional countries have been, for example, if you look at Syria, Turkey and Iran were on the opposite sides for a very long time. So we have to look at the context that while they are condemning, they do not really are friends of Iran in a manner which friendly countries can be considered. The second point about the humanitarian situation, I think at this point Iran is not in a situation where it would require humanitarian aid from regional countries. In case a situation arises where they might need some kind of humanitarian aid, perhaps that would be made available. But I don't see any military or political support that would be that any of the regional countries will extend, uh, to Iran. Regarding the US bases, obviously that is a serious problem, because if the escalation continues, if and the war expands, where the Strait of Hormuz gets affected, and then the US bases are also attacked, I think for at that point of time, the Arab countries would be in a much more. I mean, they will feel the pressure more, but I think they would withstand the pressure, because they are more dependent on the United States for their security. So I don't really see them, jumping against the United States to support Iran at least at this moment.
Brigadier Narang, what do you feel? Suppose if
See,
the US directly attacks Iran, so thus Iran has the capability to do that.
no, Americans have attacked the Houthis quite often. The Houthis have still managed to respond back. The point is, in a modern era battle, and such fast range strikes, nothing can be, get someone to knees immediately. Whichever nation. I mean, you see, even when America withdrew its support, Ukraine was still ready to fight and come up with innovative solutions. So
Yes.
Iran and Houthis will come up with some innovative means. Uh, Already, Iran has proven to the world with Jordanian support, British support, and all those support of the air defense for Israel. Still, Iran managed to penetrate their air
Penetrate.
defenses. So that's a key issue. Now, on the point of if America enters the battle, the first concerning point between Iran and other regional players there is the Shia Sunni divide. We have to keep that into mind because, that surely affects that sectarian divide. Uh, Take a case of Pakistan. In January 2024, Iran attacked Pakistan and Pakistan struck back on 18 January 2024 on Iran. So Iran has already been exchanging such strikes with other countries too. So in such a case, and then whatever said and done, Israelis are extremely precise. I mean, the collateral damage has been minimal. It's in fact the Iranians who have targeted the Israeli civilians more. So that's a point which has to be kept in mind. The precise military targeting, and Israel clearly declared we will hit this, and they are hitting that. Whereas Iranians are striking a lot of civilian targets to bring, and imagine Netanyahu going and speaking to the Iranian civilian population. Because right now it is also a matter of regime survival. How many countries are in favor of the Ayatollah regime? Many countries would be happy, whether it's Turkey, Saudi Arabia, they all will be happy if Ayatollah regime goes off and someone else comes in. That's what America actually wants, a regime change. And they have been hoping for it since long. Israelis are openly declaring they want a regime change. So as far as humanitarian assistance goes, which country is going to come up and support? Firstly, as Dr. Mudassar very rightly brought out, that they have not reached a stage where they require humanitarian assistance, because humanitarian assistance comes in when you are being stuck on civilian targets, like Russia is striking Ukrainians. So there is humanitarian assistance required. But here, the targets are all military. So that ground for humanitarian assistance is still not there. While a lot of countries are condemning Israel, there's no doubt they're condemning, but they are not saying that Iran is right in going for nuclear weapon or kind of supporting Iran. So that's the point which has to be kept in mind, I thought is important. Yes, if America enters the battle, provision of bases, I mean, right now also, Israel had to use the airspace of many other countries well before to enter Iran. So that kind of a support, when they are provided to Israel, surely they'll provide that kind of a support to US. But Pakistani bases getting used at this time may be a big problem for Pakistan too, because Iran then has all the rights to strike Pakistan very, very hard. That's the point.
Yes. And I think if that thing happens, one concern will be then Israel will come out as a very strong power. The power balance will change. That is also has to be considered. So
Absolutely.
let's take few questions before. Um, one question is from Mr. Thadani. He says both China and Russia have lost their gravitas and relevance in the Middle East. Do you feel that? And the Iran-Israel conflict has spiraled out of their sphere of influence. I don't
I
think so.
don't
What do you think?
I don't think so. China and Russia have lost their relevance in the Middle East, undoubtedly, because most of these countries today rely on trade with China. China gets energy from them, and they are completely reliant on China for a lot of things. If a trade deal, US had to blink first in a trade deal with China, these Western Asian nations surely would have to rely on China for a lot of things. As far as Russian relevance is concerned, till the time Syria and other nations are there, yes, Russia will not like to lose interest, but Russia is also a competitor to a lot of these states for their oil and others. So that's a different relationship. But with China making a deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran, that's a clear inkling that China is not being forgotten there.
There's another question, probably Mudassar or Rupali, you want to take it. Reports suggest that US is preparing to join the conflict if Iran doesn't dismantle nuclear program. Iran likely to submit to this pressure? If US gets involved, how will this affect the conflict? We have been talking about it. So if you want to add something to it, you're most
just
welcome.
very quickly, I think. Just very quickly, I think it is very likely that the US is going to join. And Iran, so far, the way Iran has responded, it is very unlikely that Iran will surrender as Trump has demanded. They are bearing for fight. They might change their tactics. They will try to prolong the war. They will try to make sure that they can damage, they can target as much as US personnel or interest in the region. But I think we might be heading for a situation where where there would be lots of uncertainty, but we may not be entering into a very prolonged kind of war, depending on how quickly the regime, uh, uh, perishes in Tehran.
Rupali, would you like to add something? We can't hear you. You're muted. Okay. There's another in this entire conflict. Iran cannot be blamed.
Everything is covered.
Yeah. What are you saying? Can you say it a little louder? Rupali, can you say it a little louder? No. Okay.
No.
In this entire conflict, Iran cannot be blamed entirely. Iran has also fault. So it's basically trying to say the world also knows who created Hamas. So it's a kind of both are equally, but it started by Israel. So anybody wants to comment on that, you must talk.
Maybe I can just very quickly again say that this idea that somehow Israel has created Hamas, I think I would say it is ridiculous actually. I mean, maybe at some point Israel might have dealt with Hamas, might have worked with Hamas, might have even provided some kind of support to Hamas to counter PLO. But you don't create such movements. Hamas is a movement, it's an ideological group, it's a resistance movement that goes back to 1987. And it has, right from the very beginning, if you go to the Hamas charter, its aims and objectives is to create a Palestinian state from the river to the sea, which means there is no Israel. So I think we need to be more fair in the assessment. So far as the blaming the two sides is concerned, I think the current conflict, we have to go back to the October 7th attack. And somehow or the other, despite of the fact that there is no proof from any side anywhere that Iran was involved in the October 7 attack, but the Israelis, if you look at the public opinion, if you look at the Israeli strategic discourse, they did blame Iran for this kind of attack. So I think we have to be fair and understand the situation a little more in depth before making such claims.
I fully agree with you. Last question we'll take. It is in the present, the conflict is non-contact. Both sides are shooting missiles, rockets at one another. Israel has apparently air domination. Still, both can continue shooting at will. Your views? Any last views you all want to give? It will be you're most welcome.
See, as far as unlimited shooting of missiles and rockets and drones are concerned, everything has a quantum. You may have as much money in your pocket. It's going to end someday if you keep spending it unlimited. Russia, which has much larger missile manufacturing capacities than Iran, had to, at a certain point of time, take some breaks. When it has fired 100 missiles or 400 drones per day, there have been certain days when it has had to take a break. So 5 days is too less a time to judge that how long will they be able to continue. And particularly with Israel having stuck a lot of those facilities in Iran, uh, it's a matter of which side blinks first. But the point is, no one can continue for very, very long time with the same intensity. Yes, if the conflict continues, there would have to be breaks in between, wherein they would have to allow, the production capacity to take over. I mean, uh, 6 days, 100 missiles each, 600 missiles. The stockpile will is not unlimited.
Right.
Yes, even if China and Russia provide you, despite all that, Russia had to take a break. Drones can
Yes.
continue because drones have become a normal sense. I mean, they are being produced in great, great numbers. But and for Israel too, Americans' full support to Ukraine at a point of time could not ensure that Ukraine managed to put up its artillery rounds. It required 12,000 to be fired. It could fire only 2,000. So that's the kind of effect which will have. No one can continue unabated for extreme long times.
Absolutely. Dr. Mudasa, any last words?
Yeah, I'll just add one point that if you look at militarily, and perhaps Brigadier, Narang can actually, enlighten me more and the audience more. Militarily, we are looking at a situation where we are not, the two sides are not equal. We are not looking at a fight between two equally militarily strong powers. If you look at Iran and Israel, I mean, a very objective assessment will very clearly show that Israel has a upper hand, even though Iran does has a firepower and it has shown it, but we are not looking at a equal military powers. If the United States joins, the ball game changes completely. How did Ukraine continue against a superior military power like Russia? Only because it received military support from bigger powers. If that doesn't happen in the Iranian case, and it is likely that it would not happen, Russia is not in a position to support. China, maybe it will provide some support, but it is not really going to enter into a war with the US over Iran. So we should be very, very circumspect in thinking that it's a fight between two equal powers.
Yes. I, Brigadier Narang, any last words?
Undoubtedly, it's not a fight between two equal powers, and particularly with America joining in, the ratio absolutely tilts in the favor of Russia, America, and Israel. But Iran is not a cannot be walked over. That's a one issue which we must remember, and the resilience it has shown, it is significantly appreciable. That despite being hit, the top leadership being completely gone off, and they are
Yes.
continuing to hit hard and stand against despite being isolated. So we have to,
Yes.
Israel is what Israel has done. It's hats off. I mean, tremendous humane and everything. I mean, multi-domain operations, fantastic. But Iran has also withstood such a strike and gone back
Yes.
to penetrate the most effective air defense in the world.
Yes.
Please remember, a very important point is what is China going to take away from here? And the biggest point is, in a Taiwan scenario, if you can wipe out the strategic and political leadership like this, what will Taiwan do thereafter? So, a lot of lessons from Operation Rising Lion and Spiderweb China will be picking up, and we would have to watch how China executes its operations here and after.
Absolutely. You rightly pointed out, there's lot of things to learn from it. And the basic thing is the objective of this thing is changing every time. It started with nuclear, then it started with change of regime. So there's a lot of hidden agenda everywhere, you see. And regime change has never worked. We have seen it throughout. It's created more complex situations, and it will be a problematic in the thing in the whole area. But thank you so much, Brigadier Narang, Dr.
My
Mudassar,
pleasure.
and Rupali for this podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. We enjoyed.
Have a good